Hi everyone, this is Heather with Treasured Hometown. Today I want to take some time to teach you how to make this lovely little crochet backpack. It has this lovely little bead onto it to help with cinching it shut. It is also made with a liner inside so that you don't risk losing any of your stuff out the sides for it. So I do have the PDF version with photos of each step along the way available at my Etsy shop. I'll go ahead and post the link to that in the descriptions for the video. Thank you so much. I look forward to making it with you. For this pattern, we'll need a couple of supplies for it. First, we need some darning needles. It is possible to sew in all your ends by using just the crochet hook, but it is quite difficult to do that, so I do recommend the darning needles. You'll need your crochet hook. We're going to use a 4mm crochet hook. We'll also need some scissors in order to cut our ends of the yarn. We'll need a large bore bead. I'm actually using a wood bead just because if I have any difficulty, like on mine, I actually, for the bag, whenever we threaded it in, I actually had to use a knife and cut out just a tiny bit in order to, just at the very end, to get the bead to slip through all the yarn. You'll need just some yarn. We're using, this is number 4 weight acrylic yarn. I'll show you I actually used 2 different colors. I used the black for the straps. Just a moment, I'll show you the color that I used for the body of the bag. And we also will need some fabric. You'll probably need about a half a yard. I usually buy fabric for stuff like this for, a couple yards at a time, but half a yard should be more than enough needed for this bag. I usually say at the beginning which color yarn I'm going to use, but this one I actually picked out. It's an acrylic yarn actually. Well, actually my daughter picked it out. It's called I Love This Yarn, and the color is Aegean Stripe. So to begin, we just start with a simple slip knot. And then we want to go ahead and chain 16. All right, we have our 16 chains. Then what we want to do is into this second chain from the hook, go ahead and slip stitch right into there. So what we did is we still have that end chain, but we just moved it back here, so I feel it makes it a little bit easier on keeping track of our rows. And then what we want to do is chain 3. Then we want to double crochet into 13 stitches. All right, now that we made our 13 double crochet stitches, into our last stitch, we want to put 6 double crochets. All right, and then down this side, we want to do 14 double crochets. So 1 double crochet in the next 14 stitches. All right, now we have our last little loop here on the very end. What we want to do is 6 double crochets into that last little loop. And then what we want to do is slip stitch into our third chain of our first chain 3 of the round in order to join. Now as you can see, we have, if you count this first chain 3 of the round as a double crochet, so there's 14 double crochets on each side and 6 double crochets at each end. So for our next round, we go ahead and chain 3 and then double crochet into the next 13 stitches. Now that you're at the end where we did the 6 double crochets into the 1 stitch, what you want to do is put 2 double crochets in each of the next 6 stitches. Alright, and then we want to do 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches. And then just like on the other side, we want to put 2 double crochets in each of the next 6 stitches. Then you want to slip stitch into the third chain of our first chain 3 of the round in order to join. So for our next round, what we want to do is chain 3, double crochet into the next 13 stitches. Alright, now we are where the end stitches. In our first chain, we want to do 2 double crochets. And then in our next stitch, we want to do 1 double crochet. And then for the next, we want to repeat that a total of 5 more times, 2 double crochets into 1 stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Alright, now we have those repeated now, so a total of 6 times we did that. 2 double crochets into 1 stitch and then 1 double crochet in the next stitch around that end. Now what we want to do is 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches. And then for this end we want to do the same as we did on this end. We want to do 2 double crochets into the first stitch, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and repeat that 5 more times, so 6 times altogether. 2 double crochets into the first stitch, 1 double crochet into the next. And then now that we're at the end, we want to slip stitch into our third chain of our first chain 3 of the round in order to join. There is our next row. So for our next row, what we want to do is chain 3, double crochet into the next 13 stitches. Now here we're at our end. What we want to do for around here is in our first stitch, we want 2 double crochets and then 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then we just repeat that for a total of 6 times around this end. So 2 double crochets into the first, followed by 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and repeat. Right, and then down this side what we want to do is 1 double crochet into the next 14 stitches. Now at our final side, we want to do the same as we did on this end. 2 double crochets into the first stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and repeat that 5 times so you have a total of 6 of those repeats. Then remember, at the end, make sure to slip stitch into your 3rd chain of your first chain 3 of the round in order to join. And that is the end of our next row. All right, now for our next round, we're going to chain 3, double crochet into the next 13 stitches. All right, and now you've reached the to our first round of the end. What we want to do is 2 double crochets into the first stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And you want to repeat that 5 times or until you have 6 total of those repeats. So 2 double crochets into your first stitch, 1 double crochet into your next 3 stitches, and then repeat. All right, now we've finished that end. What we want to do is double crochet once into the next 14 stitches. All right, and now for this end, the same as we did for the other end, double crochet twice into the first stitch and then double crochet 1 time into the next 3 stitches, and you want to repeat that 5 times or until you have a total of 6 of those repeats all together. And then slip stitch into the 3rd stitch of your third chain of your first chain 3 of the round in order to join. For our next row, we want to start in chain 3, and then we want to double crochet into the next 13 stitches. And now we've reached our end over here. So what we want to do is double crochet into the first stitch and twice into the first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches. And you want to repeat that 5 times or until you have a total of 6 clusters all together. So double crochet twice into the first stitch and double crochet 1 time into the next 4 stitches. And make sure you repeat that 5 times. All right, now we're back to the other side here. We want to double crochet 1 time into the next 14 stitches. And then on this end, the same as we did for the other, we want to double crochet twice into the first stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches. And you want to repeat that 5 times or until you have a total of 6 of those clusters all together. All right, now that we're at the end, we want to make sure that we slip stitch into our 3rd chain of our first chain 3 of the round in order to join. And then we have that row. All right, now this is the final of the bottom rows. If you want to have like a hard bottom onto it, I recommend a little piece of cardboard, and at this point lay it out and simply trace around your bottom of your bag. now you have your stencil for the bottom of the bag, and you just cut out the outside for it. And so later, once we're done with our bag, if you'd like a bit of a solid bottom into it, slip that inside of your bag. Now to begin working up our sides, what we do is from where we left off, chain 3 and then double crochet once into each stitch all the way around the outside until you come back to beginning, and then you slip stitch into your third chain of your first chain 3 of the round in order to join. Alright, so we've just completed the first row for the sides of the bag. As you can see, the sides are starting to pull up and come straight up, so they're curling now because we didn't do any increases. So what we want to do is just continue repeating that, your chain 3 and then double crochet into each stitch all the way around, and then slip stitch into the third chain of your first chain 3 of the round until we get closer to the top of the bag. Alright, so I've done a repeat of that just double crochet around. I've repeated that 21 times. You can add more rows to that by all means, or reduce it by different rows also. It's more of a depending on how big you want your bag. My specific requests were to do it for this size. Now, for if you want to do the liners and everything inside of your bag, what you want to do is measure from the 21st row all the way up the side of it. Mine was 9 inches in height, which you also want to do for the liner, a 1/2 inch seam. I go with a 1/2 inch. Some sewers would prefer to do a 1/4 inch, but for me, I decided to go with the 1/2 inch seam. So my material for the liner, I want to do 10 inches one direction. And then we also need the circumference of the bag for the other liner, for the other measurement for the liner. So what I have is the template that we took for the very base of the bag. Now to get the circumference, the easiest way I could find was to I have a rope. You could use a piece of yarn also. Measure it starting at the one side. Follow along your template. All the way back to the beginning of where you started. So this length would be the circumference for it. So go ahead and take your tape measure and measure that length, and that will give you the other dimension of your bag. Mine came to 25.5 inches, so I also want to do a 1/2 inch seam onto it. So I want to cut it 26.5 inches by 10 inches. And then for the base of the bag, we can go ahead and cut out the template. And then what we want to do is go ahead also, and whenever we cut it, add a 1/2 inch seam all the way around this. You can also do this by simply taking a piece of paper, trace it, and then draw out a 1/2 inch seam added onto the template. And then you simply, after you get your pieces cut, you sew the sides and the bottom together. Don't forget the seam on the top hem of the bag. I'll be right back as soon as I'm done sewing mine. Alright, so we have the liner all sewn together. Have our seams along the bottom. I know it's black, so it's a little bit more difficult to see. The seam up the side. I put it on the very outside edge. Made it a little easier to pin on and sew the bottom. And then also our seam along the upside edge. Then what I did, because I put it the seam at the very far edge, so just fold it flat like so. And then take our bag, lay it completely flat also. So now you have your two sides. And then simply take your liner, insert it into your bag. And then what you want to do is simply part for part sew along this very top edge in order to attach the liner into your bag. and I'll come back as soon as I've got that sewn. All right, so for doing our straps for our bag, I have gone ahead and put on markers for it. So what you do is at the last row where you're doing your increases, the very base of the bag, find, if you look, here is one of our double crochet increases. Here is the first one from the center of the bag heading out. So what I did is I went to the second increase on this side, and this is the very center. We had worked this direction, and attached a marker right above the first of the two for the second double crochet increase of this side. And then on the other side, we followed across, and on the next row up from that, followed it across. Here's where the end of that row was, and here's the double crochet increase. And then over the next stitch, I placed the marker into the next row in that stitch. And then your stitches should line up. Follow them all the way up your row to make sure that they're even placed. And then I went and placed the marker into the second row from the top because, well, I could name off a row number, but depending on how deep, if you wanted to make a deeper bag, this is where we, would have gone. So if you had added, 5, 6, 10 rows to it, then you'd have a different row count. So it's just easier the second from the top. So what we want to do is attach our yarn. Create a slip stitch. I'm going to work on this side first. So I'm actually attaching my yarn right into the stitch that we marked came out of. I'm going to attach that there with a slip stitch. And then from there, I'm going to chain 120. All right, now you have your chains for your strap. Careful not to twist your chain at all. And then what we're going to do is right into that stitch where we came out of for the stitch that we marked. Here's the stitch it was marked. Here is the space where it came out of. We're going to attach our yarn right into that stitch there. Just do a little slip stitch. All right. So as you can see, it's our little slip stitch into there. And then what we want to do is into the next stitch right next to it, just like we did for that one, go ahead and do a slip stitch right into there also. So as you can see, we're kind of pushing the yarn off to the side. And then what we want to do is simply go through the chain, and we want to single crochet into one loop only all the way down until we get to the end of this strap. Now that we're down at we've single crocheted all the way down our strap, what we want to do, since we're back here at the bottom, here we want to join it. Make sure you don't twist your strap at all. You want to slip stitch into this next stitch, same stitch for the next one, and we want to slip stitch in order to join there, and then into the next stitch over, you want to slip stitch into there also. So you just did 2 slip stitches. So you can go kind of closer and see. I'll see about zooming that in a little bit for you too. But here's the stitch we started on. We slip stitched to join this strap here, and then we slip stitched into the next stitch over. And then what we want to do is turn, single crochet down this one more time. So single crochet into each stitch all the way down. All right, now that we've reached again at the top, what we want to do is into our next stitch over, we want to slip stitch in order to join it here. Now we have one of our straps. If you'd like to make your straps longer or wider, depending on, more so I'd say, how much you're wanting to carry. If you want to carry like a lighter item inside of your bag, this one's more so carry around like smaller books. So this would be an okay size strap, but if you wanted to add more width to it, you would simply single crochet or slip stitch into the next stitch over and then single crochet all the way down in order to make your strap wider. For me, I am happy with this here, so I'm going to secure my ends and tie off. So we have our first strap. And then we want to repeat this, but on the other side. But to start this one, because we're working out, I do suggest that you start at the top here. Start into the first stitch here at the top and chain your 120 and join in the same at the bottom stitch. So then, you know, we're chaining and we slip stitch over. It's just, I find it a little bit easier to work from the top to the bottom, just so I can line up my stitches a little bit easier for me. So go ahead and make your strap also for the other side, and I will be back to show you how to create the pull closure for it. So now we've got both straps all made for our bag. We can go ahead and remove our markers. And you go ahead and weave in your ends for it. But now for our pull strap, what we want to do is take our yarn, whichever color you want to make your strap. I'm going with black onto these. So very simply, start our yarn, and we want to do is chain 125. All right, so now we've gone ahead and completed our chain. What we simply want to do is tie off. All right. Then we want to take our bag. Easiest way I found was to fold the bag in half and match up where the straps are. Then this is the back of the bag on the very front. All right, I'll go ahead and put a marker just here quick, show you the front of the bag. All right, and so from the center of the front of the bag, count over 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what we want to do is place our hook right behind and pull our chain right through and into there. And then count over 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. And what we want to do is take from our other end of the yarn and pull it right through. And we just want to continue going every 10 stitches until the 10th stitch. Weave it underneath. All right, so now you have your closer pull wrapped all the way around your bag, so you can go ahead and pull it shut. So I am going to simply just tie these together just so that they don't end up getting pulled back through and getting lost inside, you know, having a lace fall out in the middle of it on you. And there you have it. Simple, pull closed, crochet backpack. If you enjoyed this video, thank you so much. Be sure to hit the like button and go ahead and share it with your friends if you'd like to. If you'd like to continue getting a free pattern every week, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to hearing from you next time. Thank you so much for watching. You have a wonderful day.